welcome back to my channel. Those of you who are new, welcome, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. And to all of my friends returning, hello, how are you? I hope you guys are doing great. I'm excited to share another technique with you guys today using embossing folders. So many of you loved my last video with my ink and water and embossing folders. I'm going to show you how to do it without creating an inky mess, which I know a lot of us love, but let's face it, not everybody likes getting inky fingers. So I'm going to show you how you can create a beautiful background using your pattern paper, embossing folders, and some ink and a few tips and tricks thrown in so that you can create beautiful backgrounds for your cards and projects. So without further ado, let's start stamping. If you caught my last video, you'll know that we created some really fun backgrounds with embossing folders, ink, and water, and I'm so thrilled that you guys loved that video. Well, today I'm taking it up a notch using pattern paper, darker inks, gold heat embossing, and even stamping between the raised embossed details. It's going to be so much fun. So I've pulled in some embossing folders and some designer series paper, and my little kitty walking across the desk. And I'm going to show you how you can get the same effect using pattern paper as I demonstrated in my previous video, creating the inky background. Now, as you know, you can't really see that embossed image on this vibrant background, but if you watch my last video, you know the magic that's going to happen. So I had shown how you can take white ink and just swipe it across your paper, and look, it just, oh my gosh, it just makes everything pop right off the paper, and it's absolutely magical. I don't think there's any other word for it. It's just so beautiful. But I want to show you what it looks like adding a different color. So I'm just going to go on top of the white ink with my pecan pie, and you can start to see you get a whole different look. Next, I took some early espresso, and I really like that. So that shows you some different variations. Now I'm doing the back side, the reverse of the paper, which is debossed. It's a funny little pattern when you're doing this technique, but I wanted to show it to you nonetheless. So I'm just cleaning my glass mat, and I've got my designer series paper, and now I'm going to lightly swipe for some mark on top, and I'm going to sprinkle on gold embossing powder and heat set it so that you can see what it looks like gold embossed. Now, you wouldn't ordinarily have to put the brown ink on top or first like I did, but this I'm just rocking and rolling and stamping on the fly. So it was something I thought of as I was working, but look at the beautiful embossing, the heat embossing on top of the dry embossing. I think it's so pretty, and you can see the difference with that darker ink versus the white ink I used in my last video and also what I just showed you. And I'll put the link for that in the description below if you missed that video. And then the embossing. So imagine doing this with snowflake embossing folders and putting silver or white embossing powder if you wanted to get that glossiness. Oh my gosh. So many ideas. I don't know how I sleep. So I am now going to, I'm going to pull in another piece of designer series paper I already ran through the embossing folder, the sunflower 3D embossing folder, so that you can see what that looks like as it's a different pattern. So totally different looks. Really play around with your paper, because I know you all have tons of pattern paper at home. So pull it out, pull out your embossing folders and have some fun. Now here, my friends, is a technique I've never shown on my channel before, and this is a super duper wow. This does not involve pattern paper. I just wanted to show you that to give you some ideas as a follow-up from the last video. So what I'm doing is I have put my my ink, I'm using a light gray, on the debossed side of that embossing folder. So you see I'm getting it on the flat portions of that embossing folder. And then I'm just going to run my paper. I'm using basic white paper, and then look at the embossing folder is going to start transferring the ink in between the raised embossed images. And you can build the coverage of ink, start light, and then add your layers. Run it through your embossing folder, see how you like it, and then if you're fine, leave it. If you want to add more ink, then add more ink. But be careful the first few times you do it, you don't add too much ink, because as you know, You can't take ink off once it's on. And look at this. I just love how this turned out. This is using smoky slate ink. You could use a light brown crumb cake. Now here's the magic in this video. I'm going to show you how you can use your stamps, in this case script images from Elements of Text stamp set, to go on top of those areas that we just inked. And there may be the odd little bit of stamped images going on the raised embossed portions of the paper, but for the most part, all of the stamped portions are going to go in between that raised embossing. So I'm just stamping. It's going on the flat surfaces of that debossed side. I'm not pushing too hard, so the ink is not going on the inside portion of the embossed images in this folder. So it's amazing. Wait till you see what it looks like. So I'm going to run it back through my machine. Ready? Check it out. Like, isn't that the coolest? So the text is reverse, but that's okay because you're getting that beautiful pattern. And there is a little bit of stamping on the raised portions, but not very darn much. So now I'm going to try it again using Fairy Vanilla, a little washi tape to hold it in place. You want to make sure your paper stays in the same position that you've been running it through the embossing folder over and over with. So now let's try it with some blues. So I'm using a little bit of Pool Party, and then I'm going to go on top with a little bit of Coastal Cabana just to show you the difference. And I know I'm going a little bit fast as far as playing back the video for you guys, but there's a lot going on in today's video, and I wanted to get as many fun variations of what I'm doing today in this one video for you guys. So I've added another layer of blue, ran it through, and now I'm using the text, like the typewriter text stamp image from Elements of Text, and I'm using black. So I ran that through. Ready? Oh my gosh, it's magic every time. Look at, and I'll have close-ups of the photos at the end of the video for you guys so you could really get a close-up shot. But I just think that is so cool. Like, look at that. The white and gray, I'm not doing another thing with that. I just think that's stunning. And I am just, it's just another technique I'm addicted to. So I'm using the Falling Leaves embossing folder now. It's already retired. And I am now swiping on some crumb cake and running it through. And there's a lot of the flat blank surface on that deboss side. So that's how I'm able to transfer so much more ink onto the paper. So now I'm just adding the stamped portions. And then I decided I wanted to start building on some color. So this was me playing around, wasn't quite sure how it was going to work. So I started using my blending brush with my old olive ink, and then I swiped some of it on. And you can see some of it's a little bit splotchy, but I just kept working with it. And now I'm adding a little bit more crumb cake. And you won't believe how this is going to turn out. I just kept tweaking it, and I was really pleased with the final results. Now, when you're using a blending brush, you have to be careful you don't get too much ink inside that indentation of your embossing folder, or it will transfer to the white portions of the raised embossing. So I'm just adding some blues, some greens, and I just kept playing with it, and oh my gosh, you just wait. You just wait. I had so much fun playing in my stamp room and creating, and I'm so glad I put the video on so that I could share all this with you guys, because I just know you're going to have a lot of fun with this. So next, I wanted to add some splatter images and emboss them in gold. So I'm just stamping with Versamark on that flat portion of my embossing folder. And by the way, you want to make sure you wipe your embossing folder so that it's clean before you go and add your different colors, especially Versamark, because it's clear. And I know you can't see it on the camera, but because the window's right in front of me, when I moved my embossing folder ever so slightly, I could see exactly where I stamped. So I knew where those splatters were going to be. And then all I did was sprinkle on some gold embossing powder, shook it off, and heat it up. Now, all of those stamped splatters are all around and within those raised embossed leaves. So I just think this is a real wow. I've got the ink, I've got the stamped with the script and the text, and then now the gold embossing, plus all the additional colors. So I really hope this gives you lots of ideas on all the different ways that you can take your supplies that you have in home, your embossing folders, your inks, your stamps, and just have a good play, because I just know you're going to have as much fun as I did. So I'm just going to leave the music on for a bit, and I'm going to let you watch me as I finished using these techniques and then finishing the cards. Oh, and I will mention I got smart. Instead of using washi tape, I pulled out some of my snail adhesive, which is long retired, and put that on the back of my paper, and that kept it secure on my embossing folder. And you're also going to see where I'm coloring in my sunflowers and using my inks and blending brushes and just having a wonderful time making my cards. Look at that. I did use a darker ink on that one. I meant to use a smoky slate, and I think I used the basic gray, but I love how it turned out. Like, just, oh my gosh, I just think this is just stunning. So also, as a little bonus, some of today's cards feature my exclusive printable Serene Stamper sentiments. I'm so glad you guys are loving them, those of you who have received them. So I usually give these to like my email subscribers, and my customers who placed orders with me last month received another set of sentiment sheets. But I love my YouTube family, and I want you guys to be able to get these too. So the link is in the description and in the pinned comment. And just make sure you click on that, sign up to my newsletter so that you can get these Serene Stamper sentiment printables after you watch the video. Okay, let's keep watching the creativity flow. you'll see here, I decided to pull in one of my paint sets, and I really wanted to add some gold shimmery splatters with the paint. So I do believe I have the link for these paints in my Amazon store. So I will put the link for that down below. But this was not an expensive stamp set. I've had a lot of friends also use the same set, and we just love it. If you loved the Champagne Shimmer Mist that Stampin' Up! Used to sell, you're going to love the metallics in this paint set. I use it all the time. And here I'm using some of the white to have some white splatters. So of course you could use ink refills for that, but I obviously wanted my metallics initially, so that's what I pulled out. So here's the first card that I made using the swiping ink on the Designer Series paper. And I just put it on a basic card background using my blue cardstock and then one of my sentiments. And I just framed the embossed layer on some fairy vanilla. I think sometimes just these simple designs are like the best designs, just simple. Here's another simple one and how I finished it, just adding that sentiment strip, just glued it right on top, no other embellishments, and I think it's beautiful. Now look at this with that other Designer Series paper pattern and just a simple sentiment. Oh my goodness, that just has autumn and fall written all over it. And then next, this is that first card design that I shared using the inking and stamping technique on the embossing folder. This is one of my favorites. And I know a lot of you love that clean white style of stamping. And I think I loved how that turned out. And then this one with the blues, and then I added a little bit of black. And that was on my Fairy Vanilla cardstock. And then this, the falling leaves embossing folder with the creams and the blues and the greens, one of my sentiments, and then a little bit of gold. And I also rounded the corners for something fun, which I haven't done forever and a day. And the same embossing folder, the same technique, but I added color to the leaves. And then I used my markers for the sentiment. And this is one of my favorites. There you go, my friends. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you. Happy stamping!